Hi, I'm Gary White for Channel 6 Central Kentucky Television. I'm here with Melanie Gordon, and we're at Burkmann Feed. And we're going to be talking about the garden that we're getting ready to start out at the tower site on Shortline Pike in Lebanon. Melanie here is going to help us get that all set up because a little while back, a few weeks ago, we had Dennis Morgeson with the Extension Office in Washington County, but he lives here in Marion County, and he works for Marion County too, doing horticultural stuff. He came to the station and took a soil sample out at our tower site and did an analysis of how our soil looks. So these are the results of that analysis, and I brought them here to Melanie to find out what we needed, and she's going to give us some of that stuff. But how's the soil look?
Well, so far you definitely are going to need some lime.
Okay.
Your soil pH is 5.7, and it needs to be up in towards closer to 7 to be able to grow proper, plants.
Okay.
It looks like you're pretty decent on everything else as far as your phosphorus, magnesium, nitrogen. You don't have to have a whole lot of it.
Okay. So we have on the floor in front of our table here 2 bags. One, I think, is lime, right?
Yes, we have lime, and then we've got a 1010 fertilized, which is a all-purpose, all-around type of fertilizer that most people use in their garden.
Okay. So the lime, because that's where we're pretty
That's
low.
where you were very low in,
so
is
the
in
pH.
your lime. Mhm.
Okay. So we are saying, so he did a kind of analysis of 1,000 square feet. So if we're going to make 1,000 square foot garden, 100 by 100 square foot garden, we would need about 80 pounds
Yes.
of the lime mixed in. And how do you do, first of all, how do you lime the garden?
How do you lime it? Most people just take it and they just scatter it out on the ground.
All right. And then it just kind of seeps in, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can till it in and
Be ready to go.
yes.
Okay. And then how long after you put the lime and the fertilizer in the ground can you actually start planting?
You can actually plant that day.
Okay. So that it's good for it to
Right,
have that, right?
right.
Okay. That's why we're adding it. Now, so we have a 50-pound bag.
Yes.
Right? And we're going to have to get 80. So we're going to get 2 bags of the lime.
lime,
And we're going
yes.
to spread that around for our garden. Then also, we were talking about the fertilizer. And fertilizers come in a variety, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It just really depends on what your actual garden needs, which Dennis has got it broke down here for you to where you're going to put 6 pounds of 1919 per 1,000 square feet. You could do 1010 with that, add a little bit extra of it, or
Okay.
you could do the 1919.
Okay, so if we have the 1010 here, so we'd still do about the 6 pounds or just
Yes.
do a little bit more, okay. And then we just spread that around as
Yes,
well, right?
yes.
So you don't need as much fertilizer. Can you over-fertilize?
You can.
Okay.
You can. So it's always best to go get a soil analysis. That way you'll know exactly what your garden needs.
Okay. Because if you over-fertilize, it could actually burn them.
It can.
Burn them, right?
It can burn the plants.
Okay. So we're going to add our fertilizer, and we're going to add the lime. We're going to get this soil up to where it needs to be. And then we're going to start planting.
Yes.
Now, we're recording this, it's the end of June, so we're going to say we're going to get started at the beginning of July.
Yes.
This is actually kind of late, right?
It is pretty late, but you still have time to do several different things. You've got different tomatoes. You can do green beans. You can do sweet potatoes, which right now is ideal time for sweet potatoes. They don't like any cold whatsoever. So it just really depends on what you want to put in your garden.
Okay. And we have a variety. As you can see, we're surrounded by plants here
Yes.
at Burkmann Feed. And you can get some of these plants. They come in like this little I really like these. You can just take the foil off
Yes.
of this and just stick it in the ground.
Yes.
That's convenient.
It's easy.
Exactly. But you also have seeds,
Yes.
right?
We've
Okay.
also got bulk seed, just about any kind you could think of as far
Good.
as going into the garden.
So if we are talking about these plants, and any of these plants here, there's a variety, as you can see, of these different plants. Will these come up sooner than the seeds will, or does that just depend? Like right here, we have some seeds. I think these are beans,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
If we
We've got
plant
green
these beans, how long before we can actually start seeing a plant?
You could actually see the green beans in about 10 days.
Okay, so they're
or
quick.
sooner. Yes, they're very, very soon.
Oh, okay. And then I think you have some corn.
We've also got corn. In about 10 days, you'll also see them come up through the ground.
Okay, so they're really fast.
Yeah, they grow really fast. What you really have to watch for is the maturity dates on them to make sure that you have time to actually get fruit or, out of them, the vegetables.
Before frost happens?
Before the frost comes.
Okay.
That's going to be the biggest thing right now.
So we were talking the beginning of July. We have July, August. We're pretty sure we're not going to get frost in any of them.
I wouldn't think.
Yeah. September, you're pretty good, too?
Yeah.
It's kind of in October where we get iffy, huh?
Yeah, you get into October, you getting kind of iffy, and it just really depends on the temperatures.
Right, okay. So we have about 90 days there in order for some maturity windows to be kind of pretty certain. I picked some plants here, some of them, as on the actual cases, they tell you the harvest time.
Yes.
Like this one they're looking at is 50
Right.
days, so we're pretty sure we can get them in.
You're pretty good on that one.
And some of the other ones, 73 days, 80 days, most of them were actually kind of within the 90 realm, I thought. Yeah, that I've looked at. So you could kind of pick any of them. Now, we were talking about, so if it's a 1,000 square foot garden, we have up here, we have some peppers, we have some tomatoes, we had the beans, we had the corn, obviously, but we also have some zucchini, and I think we had some pumpkin plants up here. All the different, you had to kind of take into consideration what you're planting, right? Okay.
Right.
So if we're doing like a pepper plant or a tomato plant, they just kind of grow up?
They grow up. You can actually stick them with sticks or put a tomato cage around them. They do tend to fall over unless you do stick them and tie them up.
Right. But they stay within their little area pretty much?
Well, I'd say probably a 3-foot area.
Okay.
Anyway. Peppers do pretty good as far as staying pretty close together. Your tomatoes, they kind of vine out a little bit.
Okay. But when we were talking about these pumpkins and the zucchini, they'll just go for a long haul.
Yes. You've got to have a pretty good size area for the pumpkins and zucchini and squash. They do kind of grow out.
So you have to kind of keep that in mind when we're planning out this garden.
Yes.
Because if you plant them and like right next to it, you surround it with other plants, when they start expanding, an issue is going to occur, right?
They're going to cover them up.
Yeah, and they have big leaves usually a lot too, which you
Yes.
don't really want. Okay, so, and also like pumpkins, I guess, are like kind of like sweet potato. They're kind of a fall harvesty.
Right.
That's when you want them anyway.
Yes.
Right.
You don't want to plant your pumpkins too early because if you do that, then they'll rot by the time that,
Halloween's
October
here.
and Halloween gets here.
And I did pick a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. I saw that up here, so I was like, well, that sounds good. So you want to be able to carve it.
Right.
Now, so obviously we're getting the soil together because we're going to put the lime in there, we're going to put the fertilizer, we're going to get all that ready. We're going to plant these plants in there and see how green my thumb can get.
Yes.
But we can't just sit there and wait for 50 days for it to actually grow, right? We have to be weeding and doing other stuff.
Yes.
And we have some of these different other chemicals up here that can help us out, right?
Yes. We've got several different products that
some of them back
can help with the blossom end rot, insects, blights. Your tomatoes, you'll end up having to use mancozeb. I believe that's the one that the Extension Office really recommends.
Okay. And what was that one?
The mancozeb is for the blight in your tomatoes.
Okay.
You'll spray them about every 7 to 10 days.
So can you actually spray it on, do you spray it on the plant?
Yes.
And does it matter if
Yes.
it gets on the fruit?
No.
Okay, it doesn't hurt it.
No.
You'll have to wash it, probably. You should wash it
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
but
Yeah, you definitely want to wash them. They also, on each one of these labels in here, you can open them up and it tells you how many days you can spray up to harvest.
Okay.
So, and usually they're going to be pretty close. Sometimes they do have, 7 to 10 days you don't want to spray it on there. And some of them you can actually spray the day of in picking, but so read your labels.
Okay. Now, so that's good for the tomatoes, the potatoes. Potatoes. Do we have some potato plants? Or are they seeds?
Well, you get the seed potatoes in early spring. So,
Oh, okay.
And
So
we're out.
So we'll have to do that next time. We'll have to do that
Well,
next
you can
time.
do sweet potatoes.
Sweet
You can
potatoes,
do
right,
those.
right. Oh, that's right.
Yes.
We're talking about them. Okay, so, and the potato actually grows in the ground, doesn't
Yes.
it? So we're
Yes.
talking about the plant here. Tomato beetles, or these are
Potato
potato
beetles.
beetles. Are they
Yes.
issues?
Potato
too?
bugs, very big issue. We've got the Colorado potato beetle concentrate. We sell a lot of that one, and then we also sell a lot of a product called Macho. This one is probably our biggest seller for the potato bugs.
Okay.
They tend to take over your potatoes.
And then this is tomato and vegetable concentrate.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
This is a 3-in-1 concentrate. It's a insecticide, fungicide, and a miticide. That one's kind of an all-purpose. If you really don't know what kind of a bug is eating on your vegetables, you can do this.
Okay. So you recommend starting them as soon as you start seeing the plants? Or kind of, do you see the bug first? And then
Most of the time people will have an insect issue and they'll come in and say, I've got a bug eating my
yeah.
whatever plant, and then we
Okay.
try to recommend which one of the products that we believe is actually on there. And sometimes they bring us the leaves from them, and you can flip them over and see what kind of bug is laid eggs or is actually still on the plant itself.
So it's better to actually treat the problem as opposed to try and prevent it.
Yes, or
Okay.
that's the way I do.
Yeah. Okay. Now, how about with weeding? When you're planting these out there, do you have to weed on a regular basis, or is there something you can use to try and prevent a weed issue?
You can actually use a product called Preen. I've not really had success other than having a weeding hoe. So that might be a
just doing it yourself.
investment there.
And how, so if we planted some of these plants, if I planted, how much fruit potentially, or vegetable or whatever, what is this? What's this?
It's a zucchini.
As you can tell, we're starting from ground zero with this farmer here. So for the zucchini, is that going to grow a lot?
Yes, you're gonna have a lot.
Okay.
So, it really depends on if you're going to do any canning, as far as if you want more, say if you're going to do salsa, you can do more tomatoes and then do a few peppers, or it really just depends on what you want to grow.
Okay. Now also, when you have to take consideration too, I guess it's kind of the height of what you're doing too, because I know the corn, we have the seeds for the corn, that's going to grow pretty tall.
Different varieties can get very tall.
Yeah.
It can get tall.
Now, after it's all done, what do you do? Just till it all under?
You can till it all under, start over again. You can start over with turnips and kale, and you can do your fall crops.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kale grows in the fall? Mm-hmm. I like kale. Does that grow, so they don't mind the frost then, right?
No, they cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower. I think they
love
tend
broccoli, too.
they tend to do better in the fall, and we'll have some plants probably mid-July on those.
Okay.
They're frost-proof. They're not freeze-proof.
Okay.
Okay, so they will actually grow, in the fall.
So what we'll do is we're going to get started with our garden. We're going to plant our lime. We're going to do our fertilizing. We're going to plant some of these different plants in there. We're going to keep you up to date on how that's going. Maybe we'll get Melanie out there to give us some tips on how to spray some of these different things when we're doing it. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
And then we'll see how well we do. And after we harvest, we can go back in the fall and get some of those other
Yes.
crops.
Yes.
Sound good?
So there's a lot of times people will put out turnips as a cover crop for the fall, and plus they're really good to eat.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you were talking about, for the tomato plants, that sometimes you do little cages and stuff. Do you sell them too?
I do. I don't have any of the tomato cages. However, you can get a tobacco stick or two, stick on each side, take your little string, go around, and
Okay.
help just
Customize
prop it up. Mhm.
Yeah, to keep it from
Right.
falling over. Okay. Well, sounds good. Well, what else do we need to know? Anything that you can think of?
Just pray that you got a good green thumb, and plenty of rain.
Absolutely. Yes, because rain is something that you can't do without.
Yes.
Now,
So-
speaking of that, when I do get these in the ground, how much watering do I need to do to get started?
I would just water them real well, you know, get the soil good and damp, and just kind of go from there.
Because you can overwater as well, right?
Yes, you can overwater. And a lot of times if you see that the bottom leaves are turning yellow, that is a good indication that you are overwatering them.
Oh, okay. See, there's so much to know.
It's more of a learning type thing.
So who taught you?
Richard does a lot of it. Richard has taught me a whole lot here at the store, and just doing it myself.
And again, I said we're at Burkmann Feed, and Burkmann Feed is located on Depot Street
Yes.
in Lebanon, and you can get, in addition to the plants and the fertilizers, you have a whole line of other products
Yes.
that are available, right?
Yes, we do have a whole line of all kinds of different stuff.
And you can get it in bulk too. So if you are a professional farmer out there, you probably already can know about Burkmann and get your stuff here. But it's also for those of us who aren't
Yes.
professional.
Yes.
And we are doing this in the ground, but there are different options because you could actually do a container garden.
Yes,
were
you can do
saying.
in containers. There's a lot of people that are doing these raised beds. So there's all kinds of different ways you can do it.
You can actually just do it on your back porch if you're in like an apartment
sure
or something
can.
like that. You could just
You
do
sure
it on
can.
and then you'd want to just do like one or two of these plants in
Right.
the container.
Right.
Kind of go from there, but you can still get your own fresh vegetables.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for talking with me.
Thank you.
And keep watching and see how we go. Again, we've been at Burkmann Feed, and if somebody has some questions on anything that we've talked about or some other questions, can they give you a call?
They can give us a call at 270-699-2875.
Or you can stop by at
212 North Depot Street.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, it's been Gary White for Channel 6 Central Kentucky Television.